Hey, hope you're all having a good day. If you're the type of person who watches all of my videos, you'll be familiar with a specific series that I hope to make more common occurrences on this channel, the Just Chatting videos. Leading up to release, I plan to sit down with all sorts of popular faces in the Roller Champions community where we dive deep into the minds of those who wait for the game alongside us, or even a friendly check-in on some people you haven't heard from in a while. Developers, players, content creators, and more. Kicking off the new and revised version of this series will be none other than Havoc player and personal friend Zyber, so sit back, grab a snack, chat with us, and let me know down below who you'd like me to chat with next. You've obviously been in the Roller Champions scene for quite some time. Do you recall, way back in 2019, your first time playing Roller Champions, as well as how you and I met, because we've known each other since the very first year?
Yeah, so I mean, I started getting into Roller Champions when I first watched it at E3 2019. Like the majority, or like quite a few of the core community members who are still around today. I watched it at E3 and I decided, oh, this could be fun. And I tested it out and I thoroughly enjoyed it. My friends that I watched E3 with at the time didn't like it so much. So I ended up playing a lot by myself over those 4 days. And over those 4 days, I actually found that I felt like I was playing at a level higher than everybody else in my lobbies, which could have just been that I was in like not very good lobbies. But either way, I still felt like I was progressing like a lot through the ranks and like gaining MMR at a pretty reasonable level. So the pre-alpha ended and I was like, oh well, I should see if there's like groups of people around that, maybe I can get in with and like find some better players to play with. So I went to the forums because there weren't any Discord servers or anything. And that's where I met you because I posted saying, hey, you guys should make a Discord server. And
Yeah, we met on the Ubisoft forums.
yeah, exactly. And you responded back to me saying, oh yeah, there are a couple servers, community ran servers, and you linked me both of them. And yeah, that's kind of where we first met. I think those posts are still on the forum as well.
We should look sometime.
Yeah.
If they're there, I'll put them in the video.
Oh yeah, they are there. I think I had looked at them maybe a couple months ago.
I think a lot of people, or well, maybe not a lot of people, but like there was a handful of people that like felt similarly to you did during the E3 test where, because I know I felt the same way where it was like, okay, either everyone else is bad or I'm ridiculously good at this because like we obviously didn't play the E3 test together, but I know me and Mob did together, and it just felt like we were sweeping lobbies. It was just like everybody that had been playing the game for the first time had just not grasped it in the same way that you or I might have, and you could just see the skill difference there in terms of them trying to figure out how to play. They hadn't tested the mechanics and they hadn't broken the game down as quickly as we did, whereas we were like on the ball, you know what I mean? Especially coming from being Rocket League players in the past and stuff, we're all about, okay, so how do I take this thing and make it, how do I grow from this one single thing? And that's kind of where the speed came in, and nobody else was testing that back then. Nobody was trying to find ways to gain speed, and so us being the people that learned that as early as possible made that E3 playtest like such a sweep.
Exactly, yeah. And you watch those videos of people playing the game, you see the IGN video of gameplay, you see Ali A's video, or like T Martin and John Sandman and all their videos, and it's like that was some of their first games. I don't remember my first game ever looking like that. I feel like I always tried to utilize all the mechanics as well as I could, and maybe that's kind of where everybody maybe that's why I felt like I was better than a lot of players at that point, because nobody was really utilizing all the mechanics to their fullest, whereas like the players that were progressing at a faster rate than everybody else. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's been almost 3 full years since the E3 playtest. The game is still not out yet, and it's a long and confusing wait, but I think it's always important to check in with the players and see how the wait for Roller Champions has treated you, both on a game level in terms of like mental preparation and stuff, as well as on a personal level in terms of what you've done in the time since you played the E3 test.
So yeah, it has been a really long 3 years. The first 2 years I was extremely dedicated to everything I wanted to do was related to Roller Champions. I didn't want to do anything else. I was always talking with the community as much as I could, and so I was extremely stressed out during that time period. Whenever there were times of radio silence or the implied delays, which were always super stressful for everybody in the community. I think overall it just kind of it was extremely difficult, and knowing that there were those workshops and things going on like that, they were exclusive. The EU closed beta, which again was exclusive to EU.
Still mind-boggling to this day.
Exactly.
Still an unanswered question that we have no idea
exactly
what the purpose was.
So there's lots of things like that have kind of like hit me really hard mentally. So if I had to say one thing about these last 3 years, it's definitely been difficult. But this last year, I've felt like I've put it out of my mind a lot more. Like I still do my own preparation almost every single day, like watching gameplay and analyzing it to try to see like where I can or how trying to become as efficient as possible and as effective as possible. But it's definitely toned down from the levels that it used to be in the first 2 years. So yeah, overall, if I had to say anything, I would definitely say it's been difficult.
I mean, at this point now, it's like, because I'm in the same boat where we watch gameplay, and every single person that uploads a Roller Champions YouTube video, we watch that stuff and we check it out. But it's to a point now where it's like, we're ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's only so much preparation you can do before you kind of know, or at least feel confident that the only step left is to play the game.
Yeah, no, exactly. I feel like we've been all that. I feel like we've been at that step for a while now.
For a while, yeah. We definitely didn't need the whole 3 years of prep.
No,
I
absolutely
think a year and a half was more than enough.
Yeah.
But on the topic of esports, this is actually our first collaboration since November 2nd, 2019, and our second collaboration on one of our YouTube channels. You were instructed before this to rewatch that video, and I did the same. And I'm not gonna leave a link, actually. No.
What
People
the heck?
can go find it themselves. Well, like we just said before, we were kids, we were young.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what we said in that video in comparison to now, in terms of Roller Champions and its foundation for esports?
Yeah, well, I mean, we definitely we talked literally just before this, and yeah, that was a hard video to watch just because of how young we were and how different we sound now. But I feel like a lot of the points that we brought up in that video are still valid to this day. We talked about free to play. We talked about Ubisoft esports or like different Ubisoft esports games and their ability to handle esports, and then as well we talked about just basically like how we think Ubisoft is going to handle this game, and that had been based off of an interview that you had done with the Ubisoft team just like shortly prior to that video. So I feel like a lot of the points that we talked about are still valid. Like, in terms of free to play, of course, free to play is going to drum up a lot more attention than a game that you would have to pay for, especially if it's a like more of a niche game. Having it free to play gives people the opportunity to, test it out and see if they like it or not. Ubisoft has lots of experience with other esports titles. They have Rainbow Six Siege, which is still to this day is doing extremely well. And then they have other, other scattered titles here and there that do well in esports. And then, yeah, like what we had talked about in that video was you had brought up with the team, like how they felt they were going to handle the esports scene, and they had brought up that they were going to kind of support it, like it was going to be player driven, and that Ubisoft would support. And I still think I think that's kind of how it's going to go. That's how it's been in the closed beta. And I'd assume that's probably how it's going to be during release until they see that the esports level is at a certain it's like until it gets to a certain point, then they'll start doing their own tournaments and things like that. But it's definitely going to be player driven in the beginning, like we had talked about in that video.
Right. How do you even put it into words? Like, the wait has been difficult, but it's purely been difficult for the people who are waiting. And if you look at it on the larger scale, not a lot of people are waiting. Not a lot of people remember Roller Champions, and so that only affects the people that are actively here every day. So it doesn't impact the game's foundation and the credibility that it's gotten as far as within the inside gaming outlets and stuff has gone. It still, at the end of the day, has a great foundation for esports. It still looks better than a lot of other sports games that are trying to be the next Rocket League, and it still has that potential, even if the wait has been long. Because once the game's out, people will flock to it. It's a new free-to-play game. Everybody will be talking about Ubisoft's new game, and people will kind of come to it. And I still feel like that foundation is there, and it hasn't been lost, because even though all this waiting has happened, every time we play the game, all that gets mentioned is once you're inside that match, just all of your frustration goes away.
Yeah.
Like, you are there, you are playing it, and it's good. So I think that even if it has a rocky start, I still think it's going to do fine. And so I agree with you that I think a lot of the stuff that's back in that video still makes sense today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, you're currently the player for Havoc. What role do you consider yourself on that team, both in terms of playstyle and leadership duties?
So I do tend to sit back a little bit. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I definitely would say that I kind of take up more of the support. I guess I don't know if that's necessarily a good term for it, but so I try to be available. I try to be open down the lanes as much as possible for passes. And I'm not saying that I don't do my own thing. Like, if I get the ball, I'm not just gonna give it out to somebody else instantly and just go back to more of a support role. But I will say that majority of the time I did tend to find myself around the 3 line when people are at in the corners, just because I know that that's probably the most valuable position to have somebody, because they can clear it out of the corner. And more often than not, most players are kind of if the ball's in a corner, most players are in that corner trying to get the ball. So I try to just create space for my teammates and give them passing opportunities as much as possible. As well, I try to talk about strategies as much as possible, and I try to talk about where we should be positioned and stuff. Of course, I have my strategy video, and I've definitely tried to implement a lot of the things that I mentioned in that video into my team's gameplay. Of course, it's not 100%. It's not exactly how we play. We do have our differences from that, but I do think I take up. I don't want to say I take up more of a leadership role, because I don't think anybody on our team really has. I wouldn't say anybody is the team leader, but I just try my best to help my team out with understanding the strategy that we should go for and things like that. And in terms of play style, yeah, it would be more of a support, creating space sort of position. So yeah,
I mean, I think you and I play similarly in the sense that I feel like support isn't the word for it, but neither is captain or leader. It's because I assume you play the same way, and obviously we've talked a billion times before. We are the people that are always watching over our other 2 teammates and communicating potential opportunities to them, saying, hey, you have an opening right here, you have an opening right here, and you're kind of guiding them and telling them which of the opportunities currently available is the one that they should be going for, and you're kind of just helping them get through each lap and letting them know if there's something that they need to be aware of, and sort of just being that third eye to kind of help them move their way around the map and make sure everything's moving smoothly as you guys take it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a captain, but it doesn't quite feel like it as much as you are maybe being the most vocal person on the team in terms of coordinating strategies and things like that.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. Definitely I definitely try to be in a spot where I can first off be in space so that my teammate always has a place to pass it. But then as well, I try to be able to watch and say oh, you're gonna get tackled, or oh, you have this opportunity here. So just things like that. Yeah, I would agree with you.
Now, outside of esports, it's safe to say that you're somewhat relaxed in the community, a meme-friendly face, if you will, as the memes about closed-net Zyber still stick to this day. Are there ever doubts that people don't take you seriously as a player, or doubt your ability to compete at the top level, or do you feel people recognize that skill and expect you to perform really well?
So I definitely do my best to make sure that I'm as relaxed and I guess meme friendly as possible. Like I hope that people like I hope that the reason that meme sticks is because like I'm a higher level player and people respect me, so it's funny that like people see me doing that kind of thing. I hope that's the reason why.
That makes sense.
Because again, I don't want to speak for how other people see me, but I just try my best to be as good as possible, and like, of course, I have slip ups here and there, and I don't let myself dwell on any of that stuff, like the closed net thing. That was me. It's just a lapse of judgment there. But yeah, no, it happens. But like I think with everything that I've done since then, I've kind of I've kind of allowed myself to stay in like one of those higher level player positions. So I hope it's that. I hope it's because people like respect me as a top player.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, and I don't know who all has admitted it, but if you are playing just the heck out of this game, you have thrown the ball at a closed net easily, 100%.
Oh
Whether
yeah.
you were trying to pass, whether you flew through the lap and thought you had passed the first marker and didn't know until you prepped for your shot that you didn't pass that marker, like it happens. We've all done it, absolutely.
Doing it twice.
Yeah, doing it twice. That's different.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say is the single most important thing that you've learned or done during this wait for Roller Champions?
So I think the most important thing that I've gained from this is just my ability to interact with like a large group of people because I've always said it even from the beginning. I think I remember a conversation with you where I brought it up, but like I mentioned networking, and it might not
Right.
exactly be networking, but I think the ability to like talk to other people, get an understanding of different people's opinions on things, and especially with like gameplay, you want to hear like different opinions on each different mechanic and strategy and things like that. So you want to be able to like take all of that information and put it out in a meaningful way, as well as just like the ability to get as many friends as possible. And like it's important, like the game hasn't been out, and I think the reason I say that this has been important is because literally my days have been filled with hanging out with people that I met through the community, and I'm constantly meeting more and more people, and it's been allowing me to kind of have an easier time waiting because I have like that group of people that we all share common experiences with this game. So I would definitely say that's the most important thing right now, but if you ask me this question when the game's out, my answer might change.
The most important thing that I've learned in the time is how to be patient.
Yeah.
By far. If I would have been waiting for this game in a different time period, let's say it was in 2017 and maybe I wasn't taking it as seriously, but it was just a fun game that I was waiting for, I cannot promise that I would be as patient. Even today, there are games where I go into the Discord server and I'm like, yeah, I took the game off my wish list. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I still do that today, whether it be Party Animals or Rumbleverse and things like that. But there's something about Roller Champions where I've learned to be patient because I know that that one day where I'm angry and irritable waiting for the release is not worth my reputation. It's not worth making a scene in front of a lot of people, and so I definitely try to be patient, and when I'm feeling frustrated, I take it to private conversations and DMs and stuff so that we can just hash it out so that nobody has to see that side of Justin Reverse who's really angry waiting for the game, because it does happen.
Yeah.
And then as far as networking goes, you and I would argue are very, very good at networking. We understand it. We understand the purpose of it. There's a really interesting thing, and even at the smallest levels of community, it's important to pick who you're talking to. Because as we know with communities, cliques may form, certain people may side this way, certain people may side this way. And then as far as listening to different people's opinions, it is always important to know how someone else is playing the game, because that it isn't even so much about teaching you about how to beat your opponent as much as it is, asking yourself, is it possible that there are other people that are doing things that I'm not thinking about.
Exactly.
Is it possible that there are people that are thinking about the game and playing it in a different way that I've yet to figure out or understand? And so even if you don't agree with it, it's always important to listen, because everybody is going to play this game differently. And you kind of need to stay on top of the ways that people are doing it, because, as you and I have talked a billion times before, I learned through Rocket League that listening to my own methods and saying, no, this is wrong, I'm going to do this, I paid for that. I could not get into esports in Rocket League after years, and it was because I assumed that my strategies were the best, and I didn't listen to other people.
Yeah.
And I kind of paid for that. And so Roller Champions this time around, I do think that I have one of the best strategies, but it's really important to note that that strategy is formulated not only from what I'm doing and what I've learned, but from what other people have done and learned. And so it's kind of a big mix of everybody's stuff that kind of leads me to believe that I have such a solid strategy, is because it's built off of what everyone else has done and what they're doing and what they think is best.
Yeah.
Now, you and I have had many conversations before about whether you're a Twitch streamer, a YouTuber, a full-time esports player. Where do you sit now, all of this time later? Do you have a game plan for how you want to approach things when the day for Roller Champions finally comes?
What I've decided is, like, of course, the whole reason I'm here for this game is to play it, competitively, play it at the highest level if possible. So ultimately, like, I'm here, that's my number one goal. I'm here to play at the highest level, and that's like what I'm going to be focusing mostly towards. But that allows you to do a couple things, like stream, because people want to see high level gameplay, or they want to be able to watch people play. So that avenue is always going to be open, and I will definitely be streaming, like, as much as possible. But in the back of my head, I always know that, like, I'm trying to be the best player that I can. It just happens that Twitch streaming works out while you're doing that. Like, you see Rocket League pros, they stream all the time because people love watching, love seeing the highest level games, and people can watch those games and learn things for their own gameplay. So overall, like, definitely full-time esports player. That's like the dream goal. Twitch streamer is like kind of additional. But I will definitely be streaming as much as possible. And then YouTube, like, I've done my fair share of YouTube. If I have an idea for something, I'll definitely try to make videos. But, I'm not going to go out of my way for my YouTube channel, and, kind of, like, I'm not going to constantly be, trying to think of ideas for YouTube and, editing those, because that does take a lot of time. So
Right.
If I have ideas, I'll do it. If I don't, then I'll probably just stick to streaming.
So esports is the go-to,
Yeah.
but you can stream some of it at the same time.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. My worry as far as the streaming scene goes with the RC people, because there are some people that are hoping this is like the avenue to being streamers, and obviously yours is different because yours is more esports oriented. But what you'll find is that if you look at the amount of people that are saying that they are going to stream versus the amount of people that say that they're going to upload YouTube videos, it's very clear that one of them is going to have less attention. And what's interesting is that the one that's getting less attention is YouTube, which is where more of the views might actually lie, because not everybody has the time to watch a stream live as it's happening, whereas on YouTube you upload it and somebody can watch it at any time of the day whenever they want. So I'm actually really surprised that everybody's going for the streaming route. But as said, in your situation when you're practicing for esports, it makes sense because you're able to stream at the same time and you don't have to worry about editing and stuff. But
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just like a big thing where, dude, anyone that's playing RC right now, if you have a YouTube video you want to make and you know how to edit,
Go for it.
Post videos in the nicest way possible. This YouTube area, I am not being competed with, and so people ask me, well, why are you getting so many views, or how did you grow as fast as you did? A little bit of luck, sure, but it's also the fact that 3 years later, nobody's uploading outside of me in terms of known creators. I think it's been a good couple of months since anybody's uploaded a Roller Champions video, and so I hope more people upload, just because I'd love to collaborate with more people.
Yeah.
I know Zyber is uploading videos right now, who's doing really good. I think Westy just uploaded his first YouTube video.
Yeah.
I've yet to watch it, but I plan to. It's very interesting how everybody's kind of has these different paths in mind, but esports player first.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
it's also been
is to win the tournament.
It's also been extremely difficult right now for YouTube because, there's only so much content that's out there regarding RC. So it's like you really have to be innovative to make a video that is worth watching for RC right now.
Right.
And of course, when the game comes out, that's going to be easier, and we're going to see more people doing YouTube. And I will,
because you can just play.
yeah, exactly. And I'll definitely be making sure that like I at least post a video every so often, but it's definitely not my main focus.
Moving into more community oriented stuff. Moderation is always a fun topic. I believe I talked about it whenever I did my Just Chatting session with UB Zurich. It's a fun topic for anyone involved in the world of community management and moderation. I know in the roller champion scene, we actually have a lot of people that are interested in more community oriented stuff, and that's because they've fallen in love with the community so much, but they don't always realize how important moderation is in terms of keeping the community safe. I obviously no longer work on the Roller Champions server. I left as server manager in the middle of March to pursue my career in community management full-time at Jaeger Development for the cycle. The beta's live now. Go play it. If you need a code, just DM me. That aside, if I'm correct, you didn't have a lot of moderation experience prior to Roller Champions.
Yeah.
How has this affected your time on Discord, and has moderating the server left you with any feelings of achievement or growth as a person?
Yeah, so I definitely didn't have any moderation experience prior to Roller Champions. Of course, you brought me on to one of your Roller Champions servers. You brought me in as an admin at one point because we were friends, and that was my first experience with that. It definitely has affected my time quite a bit because I always knew that with Roller Champions that I wanted to be as big of a part of the community as possible, and I wanted to kind of have reaches into each different aspect of the community. And I feel like being in these positions has allowed me to do that because I'm constantly interacting with people from all the different cliques and groups and stuff like that. So I feel like it's allowed me to kind of have that interaction with the community that I wouldn't necessarily have if I wasn't moderating, because if you're moderating, you kind of have to be monitoring the server as much as possible.
Right. You're involved, and people, your name is on the top at the on the roles list on the server, so your name's always visible. People have to reach out to you in terms of issues and stuff if they arise, and so it's a really great anchor to have. It's like no matter what's going on in the community, there is somewhere where you can kind of put yourself in and enter a conversation, because that's your job.
Yeah.
Is to put yourself in conversations and involve yourself around
Exactly.
such things. And so it's a really, really good way to meet people in a community.
Exactly. And it's kind of it's kind of cool to see. Like, again, I'm not the type of person that I'm not specifically looking for recognition or anything like that. I'm just moderating because I want to be involved in the community as much as possible. But it is cool when you reach out to people that you've never heard of before, and they go, "Oh, you're Zyber, I know you," and it is kind of cool getting that recognition. But ultimately, I think the big thing, the growth that I've got from being a moderator has been I've started to become more professional with how I handle things. And of course I work, I have a professional job and all this stuff anyways, but it's definitely helped me with realizing how to handle myself in lots of different situations, and how to handle certain types of things, if there's a conflict, how to resolve those types of things. So, and I know me and you have kind of butted heads on a lot of topics regarding moderation, but I think also that's kind of helped me realize sort of how things should be handled, and it's definitely helped out.
And I mean, everyone moderates differently as well.
Yeah.
I believe it was Fabulous, and I had talked about this a long time before. You'll see some people are strict. You'll see some people are laid back. You'll see some people are nice. You'll see some people are not so nice. I am openly a strict moderator. I run a tight ship. I like everything to be perfect. I have OCD in that sense when it comes to Discord servers. But that's just something that has worked for me and allowed me to do what I do. And so that's that's how I've always stuck with it. And so, there's always going to be like disagreements sometimes in the way moderation is run, but it's important to have that blend of different personalities and stuff on a moderation team, because you'll have the people that are there for the purpose of making everyone feel welcome and making everyone feel like there are people there who can help and answer questions and things like that. But then you also have the people there that are able to deal with the tougher situations, the fighting with people, the arguing with people about their stuff that they've done, all that kinds of stuff. It all bundles up to create a really good ecosystem. And as far as like recognition goes, even though you don't need recognition, it's always nice to know that like we are one small part of keeping the community together and keeping the community positive during the wait. And I've always taken a lot of pride in that, in knowing that like I was there, I helped people feel better whenever they were stressed in the waiting, and it's always just a nice feeling, even though it doesn't deserve like I don't need an award, I don't need people to like thank me, but it is a nice feeling to know that we are one small part of what is hopefully going to be a larger community someday. We're down to our final 2 questions. They're less discussion based and more just rapid fire quick. Rank these players from 1st to 3rd. Jwist, this guy, Paul Angs.
So do you want me to explain the reasoning for each of these?
If you feel like you want to, go right ahead.
So I would put this guy first. Obviously, people meme about me saying that I think Guy is the best. But he's definitely very mechanical, so I definitely put him in number 1. Paul Angs I would put him number 2 because, of course, I've had like Paul Angs is just nuts. He's also very mechanical, and I'm a good friend with him, and I've gotten to see how well he's able to play. So he might not have had the same opportunities as everybody else with like workshops and stuff. So that's why I put him in number 2. And then Jwist, of course, I'm putting him in number 3. He's still like an extremely good player. I just know that I think my playstyle and his playstyle don't necessarily mesh super well together. So Jwist is definitely a good player with playstyles that work well with his.
What's funny though is that I kind of just randomly put those names in there, but it's actually almost a dream team because they each have their own. Those 3 players, Jwist, Guy, and Paul, are all different in terms of their play styles, which makes it really difficult to like compare them with each other. Yeah. This guy, like you said, is really really good mechanically, which makes him a great offensive player. Paul Angs is really really good at defense, which in his tackles and stuff, which makes him a good defensive player. And then you have Jwist, who is more of a jack of all trades player right now, who understands how to play the game, understands the mechanics, and can do what is necessary depending on who he's playing with. And so those 3 alone is like dream team quality. They could really tear down some groups.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, this guy first, Paul Angs second, Jwist third.
Yeah, that is my final answer.
Okay, I will be sure to let Jwist know that you placed him third. No. You will have to talk to him about that on your own time.
Just tell him to message me. We'll handle it.
Yeah, congratulations. There goes your networking. What's the first thing you want to do when Roller Champions releases? Very first thing, the game has been installed. You boot it up 5 minutes after you launch the game. What do you see yourself doing?
So, I mean, ideally, I would just like to hop straight into ranked. I don't know if they will necessarily have ranked available like the very first day, similar to like the closed beta where it wasn't available till the second day. But at the same time, I could see it being released like right away. Ideally, I would like to be playing ranked. If I can't have like my team fully available yet, I will probably hop into training to check out like any new mechanics or new gameplay techniques, things like that. Just kind of check out the changes that we've seen or anything that might be different from any of the previous versions of the game, and just see if there's any sort of like weird ways to use them, weird techniques that you could figure out that might be useful for playing at a higher level, just things like that. Because I've always been a huge fan of training in Rocket League, and I still play training in Rocket League like a couple hours every single day. So training's super important, and just understanding how everything works, of course, with a new game is also important.
I see myself, and obviously you were invited to such as well. I imagine you'll be there. I want to get a private party going 6 people, you know, and whether some of it's custom games, I want to do what's called a lab, which probably isn't a popular term in the Roller Champions community, but it can be used elsewhere. You can hear about labbing in like Smash Bros and stuff. It's when you go in and you break everything down. You figure out what's abusable, you figure out what is currently in the game that people are not seeing, and you essentially just break the game down as quickly as possible to find anything that might be useful to you. Doing that early is going to be really cool, and I want to get a group of people together where we can sit down in a party, hang out, celebrate the launch of the game, and just focus on running into like training lobbies, free play, custom solos, whatever they're going to introduce, and just practicing and just moving around and seeing if we can find anything that maybe we didn't realize before. Obviously, we were expecting new stuff, so we'll have to see what can be done, if those things are really useful or if they're just minor things that nothing can be discovered with. We'll kind of have to see.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely a good way of starting out. I mean, yeah, definitely if you do a lab, hit me up because I'll do it. And like getting like as many people as possible into a group and just, or like especially as many top players as possible into a group and just trying to figure everything out. Yeah, that would be definitely beneficial for everybody, I think.
Consider it done. Zyber and I are running a private lab launch party when the game releases to break the game and figure out what is abusable in the game so that we can climb to the ranks the fastest. If you want to be a part of that, just DM me on Discord and we'll talk about it sometime. Obviously, it's a long way out. We don't know when the game is releasing. The wait is incredibly painful, but we are here. We are uploading videos. We are finding ways to deal with it. That is all of the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to say just to the general community, those who haven't talked to you in a while, those who might want to hear what you're up to these days? Is there anything that you want to mention before we go?
I mean, not a whole lot. I'm always here. If there's anybody who hasn't talked to me in a while who just kind of wants to discuss Roller Champions, I'm always here and down to talk about Roller Champions. I'll just thank you for bringing me on for this interview. It's kind of a nice throwback because I remember being in the position where I was interviewing you, so it's a different dynamic, and I enjoyed it.
Right, yeah, and I mean that's what I want to do now. Is I have some other plans for some videos that I haven't fully discussed in detail yet, but I really like the just chatting, and so I'm gonna pick and pull people that maybe we haven't heard to for a while and check up on them and see what they're doing and see what their intentions are, see if they're still loving Roller Champions. And so anybody who seems to be a good fit for this, someone you want to hear from, just let me know and we'll try to get them in here and talk to them. Thank you, Zyber, for stopping by to chat, and I will talk to you after I finish recording.
Later, gamers.
And that does it for this video. If you like what you see and want to stay up to date on Roller Champions, consider subscribing to the channel and comment down below who you'd like me to chat with next. I've got more videos on the topic of Roller Champions than anyone else across multiple platforms, and I plan to keep that up. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you all soon.